Welcome back, everyone. This is Frank DiMora from the End Times Research Ministry. And welcome to my YouTube channel. And if you haven't found my prophecy site, I'd like to invite you to go over there. I'll put up the link for you at the end so that you'll know where the prophecy site is. But for those of you who may not know how to move around my site when you get there, it's very, very simple. All you have to do is once you get to this page, you'll see the different articles that are in the green area. And all you have to do is just click on one of these articles and just wait for a few seconds and then scroll down, because that article will appear right here. Now, I just clicked on the 6th, and that was yesterday. But once you get down to this area, you'll see that there's a link to my book. All you have to do is click this link. You can download my book today for free. Don't ask for any funds whatsoever. And this is a blessing to you. You'll be able to get all of this information, and it is current information. In most of the books that are being written about Bible prophecy, it takes almost a year to get to the shelf, and by the time that it gets to the shelf, it's old news. But not here. I keep my book current, as you can see, on March 5th of 2014. So let's go over to the news. Now, before I actually get into the news, I want to show you a warning. One of the warnings I've been giving over the years, so that you'll understand the importance of why I'm giving these warnings, connecting current events with Bible prophecy. And this was taken from my March 4th, 2014 post. Let me scroll down. Now, this is concerning the call for peace and safety. And what I wrote to you is the following. Of course, I'm going to go back and revisit 1 Thessalonians 5:3. So I'll show you what that says. But here is my warning that I wanted to talk to you about before I actually get into the news, and you'll see why, the importance of this. And if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to center starting right here, and it says this: "For years I have been warning to you not to expect any peace break, and I cite the reasons why peace talks will fail." Now, I also said, Google "Israel won't stop building settlements, Israel Frank DiMora," and I'm sure you'll see many of my previous posts come up where I discussed the settlement issue. Israel has stated numerous times that they have the right to build on their own land, and no one is going to stop them. Over the past 2 years, as you will see from the news below, Israel has continued to build homes for their citizens. Of course, the settlement issue is one of many reasons why the PLO continues to back out of the peace talks. And between the settlement issue, now get this, because I'm giving you the specific details of why the peace plan is falling apart, and between the settlement issue, the ownership of, get this now, East Jerusalem, and breakup of Israel into two states, one for the PLO, we can see the peace talks will go nowhere. All right? And I've been warning about this countless times, and again, you can do Google searches on this. It says, I take that back. They will go somewhere, and that place will be the fulfillment of Psalm 83 war between the Arabs and Israel. Now, if you're new to prophecy and you don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to the Psalm 83 war, hold on, I'm going to show you what that is very, very briefly. So now let's go move over. You saw what I was warning about. Keep in mind the elements that I warned that was going to break down the peace talks. And you'll see why I had to show you this warning. Now, I get many, many questions at my email address concerning Israel and the Middle East and the peace talks. And a lot of people want to know if there's going to be a peace plan that will be signed. And the answer is twofold. Yes, there will be a peace agreement signed. We know that from Daniel 9:27. But the peace plan that will be signed in 9:27, when I'm referring again to Daniel 9:27, that peace agreement will be signed or confirmed, as it says in the scriptures, by the Antichrist. But that's going to come later. There will be no peace agreement between the Israelis and the Palestinians to form a two-state nation within the borders of Israel. that peace agreement, or that peace confirmation that Daniel talks about, obviously is going to come later. And I needed to make that distinction. What we do know is that while they're calling for peace and safety, there is going to be huge problems. How do we know this? Let's take a look. Well, in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3, this is what Jesus warned us through Paul. For when they shall say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Now, if you've been tracking what's been going on with the peace agreements, or trying to come up with this peace agreement between the Arabs and Israel, it actually started all the way back in 1979 with Jimmy Carter, Mahatma Begin, and Anwar Sadat, when they finally got Egypt to sign a peace agreement. And ever since then, they've been trying to get the Arabs involved to get a full, comprehensive peace agreement, and it has eluded them ever since 1979. And since 1979, we've seen the process of the peace agreements come and go, fail, and get worse, and then conflict after conflict. And what's happened here is we've seen the travail upon a woman with child in the news since 1979. So the prophecy is moving along, and obviously when they're calling for peace and safety, then it happens. What happens? Sudden destruction. Well, what is the sudden destruction? It's war. So don't expect that there's going to be a peace agreement signed between the Arabs, because that's not what Jesus showed us. He told us sudden destruction was going to come. The destruction we know, obviously, will be the Psalm 83 war, of which the Palestinians are going to be involved in. Now, concerning the peace talks, obviously, if the Lord told us to keep an eye on the call for peace and safety, it's going to be appearing in the news. And it is, because the Lord's word is 100% true. It is the truth. And if it is the truth, you should see it. And we've been seeing it almost on a daily basis now. Now, this is today's news. Kerry meets with Jordan's king over the peace plan. So the call for peace and safety is there. It's in the news almost every single day. Now, this is what that article had to say. U.S. Secretary of State Kerry is in Jordan to meet with its king about the Mideast peace. Now, Kerry is hoping to broker a peace plan between Israel and the Palestine authorities, and wants to present a framework for an agreement by the end of April. A major part of the proposal centers on security in the Jordan Valley that runs through parts of Israel and the West Bank. Jordan has been a key part in those negotiations. Now, one thing you should know about Jordan is they are listed as one of the nations that are going to be coming against Israel in the last days, and there's many reasons why Jordan will join the Arabs in that attack. I'm not going to go through all those reasons right now, but you'll be seeing those shortly as the news shows up, and I will point that out for you. So the peace talks are going on. The peace talks will fail. I warned you why they're going to fail. Let me move on. Now, here is the news from the Times of Israel. Abbas, no recognition of Israel as a Jewish state. And this came on of March 7th, 2014. And this is what he said. The Palestinian Authority, President Ahmad Abbas, said there is no way he will recognize Israel as a Jewish state and accept a Palestinian capital in just a portion of the Israeli annexed East Jerusalem for rebuffering by Palestinians' fear will be key elements of the peace or the U.S. peace proposal. Abbas' comments signaled that the gaps between him and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu remain wide after 7 months of mediation efforts by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry. So the thing that I was warning you in the first part that I showed you from my warning earlier this month, that the Middle East peace process isn't going to go anywhere because of one of the main issues of East Jerusalem. And that's where it stays today. One of the other reasons was that Israel wanted the PLO to recognize them. And obviously, when you have a boss saying that we're not going to recognize Israel, and this isn't new news really, because he's been saying this ever since he was elected as the leader of the Palestinian faction. And so where are we going with all this? Obviously, the peace process is coming to an end. And as it comes to an end, what's next? It will be the sudden destruction that Paul warned about in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3. We have been seeing the labor pains of the failed peace talks, as I said, since 1979. And now we're going to get to the birth, and the birth will be the sudden destruction or war, and that war will be the Psalm 83 war. Now I want you to take a look here, because in number 8 that I listed for you on the photo that I have taken, I show you Phoenicia. Now Phoenicia is the Old Testament name for the Palestinians who are in the Gaza Strip. And obviously Abbas is the leader of the Palestinians. And when you take a look at the rest of the nations listed here, when you take a look, you'll see also the Palestinians that are living in different parts. But number 3, you will see the Palestinians in central Jordanians, and there's other places as well. Take a look at the photo, if you will, because when you take a look at Amman, number 6 here that I listed for you, they are the Palestinians and North Jordanians. So I didn't think that it was any coincidence that the Jordanians were in the news again today and the Palestinians were in the news again today, because these are all the same people that Paul, or the scriptures in Psalm 83 warn about. So when you put them together and you see, and when you know what the Lord said, you see it converging. Get ready, because it's definitely going to happen. This war, all of these nations are going to come against Israel. Take a look at what the Psalm says. Psalm 83 says, "Keep not thou silence, O God, and hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against the hidden ones." Now get this in verse 4. "They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel be," look at this, "no more in remembrance." In other words, wipe out Israel. And verse 5, "For they have consulted together with one consent, they are confederate against thee." So all of these Arab nations are going to unite as a confederacy to come down and wipe, or at least make an attempt to wipe out the nation of Israel. Of course, we know that Israel is not going to be wiped out. They may take a hit, but they are not going to get wiped out. How do we know that? Because when the Ezekiel 38 war breaks out, I'm going to get into that a little bit, we see that Israel is still standing, and that Ezekiel war will take place after the Psalm 83 war, so we know that Israel did not get wiped out. Now, what I want to show you here is I'm going to avert to another prophecy, which is very, very important, because we know that in the last days there's going to be another temple built, the third temple, the third Jewish temple. Now, how do we know this? Is because, again, remember I talked about the confirmation of the Antichrist, this peace agreement? Well, it's going to happen, but it's not going to happen before the Psalm 83 war. It'll happen after. Take a look at Daniel 9:27, and I'll get through these other scriptures. Daniel 9:27 says this, "And he," meaning a real person, by the way, "he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week." Now, this 1 week, don't let this mess you up. This is a period of 7 years. So the Antichrist will confirm a covenant that was some agreement that was already established, or some structure that was put in place, and they're confirming this structure. Whatever it is, they're going to confirm it, or he is going to confirm it. And it will be a period for 7 years. All right? Now, and in the midst of the week, he, or in other words, in the middle, the exact time period, in the middle of the 7 years, or 3.5 years, 1,260 days, we're told in Daniel 9:27, take a look at this, in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. In other words, he's going to stop the sacrifices that are going to be reestablished in this rebuilt temple that you see here. Here's a picture of it that I took when I was in Israel. And so they're going to build this temple. The Antichrist is going to allow them to start their sacrifices in exactly 1,260 days after that confirmation that the Antichrist is going to stop the sacrifices. Now, going on, it says, and for the overspreading of abomination he shall make desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured on upon the desolate. So we know in this scripture there's going to be a confirmation. There's going to be a temple, because the Antichrist has to go into what? According to the scripture, he's going to stop the sacrifices in the temple. Now take a look at what Jesus says in Matthew, down here, Matthew chapter 24, verse 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken by Daniel. So Jesus is referring directly to Daniel 9:27. Spoken by Daniel the prophet, stand in, look what he's talking about, the holy place. Whosoever readeth, let him understand. So we have understanding what holy place he's talking about, because we know that that temple is going to rebuild. The Antichrist is going to go into it and cause havoc around the world when he tells everybody that he is God. And that's at that time period, exactly halfway into the 7-year tribulation. That's when the Antichrist starts to force everyone to receive his mark, either in their right hand or in their forehead. Now look at Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 4, here at the bottom. Now again, talking about the Antichrist, who opposes and exalt himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he, as God, sitteth in, guess what? Temple. In the temple of God. What temple? The one that they're going to rebuild, as you see here. Showing himself that he is God. So in the near future, when the Israelis rebuild their third temple, you're going to see this man, this Superman. The world is going to look upon him like he's a Superman. He's going to go into the temple. He is going to tell the world that he's God. It's a setup. The Lord warned us about these events. And so when you start to see that this temple being rebuilt again, you should look in your life and check your priorities. And if Jesus isn't priority number one, you're in trouble, because your time is very, very limited. The whole world's time is limited to receive the free gift of salvation right now. When the church is gone, it's going to be a whole different story. You're going to be facing the Antichrist. And of course, the Lord loves us. He's given us all these warnings. And as I said yesterday in my video, you have a choice, either to receive it or to deny it. If you deny it, then you're making your own road right to the gates of hell. Let me move on here. Now here is an article that came out of Al Jazeera, and it has to do with the Temple Mount. And the reason why I'm giving you this news is because if you've been following my site at all and been watching my YouTube videos, you've been seeing the news that I've been posting to you, telling you, watch out what's going on in Israel, specifically at the Temple Mount, because they're moving towards, the Israelis are moving towards building this temple. So let me give you this news here. It says the PA complains to the UN over Temple Mount. And the Palestinian Authority, PA, complained to the United Nations on Wednesday over Israel's actions at the Temple Mount. So you see the critical part that I highlighted here for you. It says a statement posted on the website of the PA mission to the United Nations said that the PA was particularly concerned by the increasingly insurgents by the Israeli extremists. They call them extremists, but it's Israel. I mean, it's their land. And the political leaders, including government officials on the El Hamas compound. Now, a year ago, I warned you to keep your eyes on the news and watch the government officials who were elected in Israel, because many of these government officials were going to push to have their Jewish citizens have full access to the Temple Mount. And by doing so, that would actually set the precedent for building the temple. And of course, that's exactly what's happened. We've had the Israeli leaders, new Israeli leaders being elected, who are pushing for full access to the Temple Mount. And this is what the Palestinians are warning about in this article. It says, these incidents provoke Palestinians and other Muslim worshippers and often lead to clashes, which I've showed you at my site, in which Palestinian civilians are injured, tear-gassed, and detained, the statement said. So moving on, it says the PA statement also denounced that the recent debate in the Knesset on the Jewish access and Israeli sovereignty on the Temple Mount, where Jews are often forbidden from praying, harassed, and arrested. So again, there's reference to the Knesset, where the new elected Israeli officials are trying to push for full access to the Temple Mount. Very, very meaningful news to us who know what's coming. It says, such actions with regard to the highly sensitive area provoked Palestinians and may also be perceived as serious acts of incitement in the wider region. Now, one of the things that I've been warning about is that when the peace process falls apart, and it is going that direction, we know. We're already into the 7th month of what they wanted to be a 9-month peace talks, and at the end of the 9 month, they wanted a peace process agreement signed, and they're definitely not going to get it, especially after the news again that they saw that Abbas is not going to recognize Israel. So the wider region that they're talking about, I believe, will end up being the Psalm 83 war, where all of these nations that border Israel are going to be coming together. Could you imagine if Israel says go ahead and start rebuilding their temple? Man, that would be cause for war right away. So let's go on. It says, moreover, these actions undermine the current negotiations process, threatening the prospects of peace. So you better believe it. There is no way that there is going to be a peace agreement signed before Daniel 9:27, because that agreement will be confirmed by the Antichrist after the Psalm 83 war. So when we start to hear more news about the Temple Mount, more concerns from the Palestinians about the Jews going up to this area, you better believe that the prophecy is in motion and God is going to fulfill the rest of his prophecies. You will see, as I said, the new temple go up, because that's exactly what the Lord told us was going to happen. And if you don't believe me now, which I know many people will not believe it, all I could say is wait and watch what's going on in the Middle East, and when you see the temple start to be rebuilt, please come back and recollect what you heard here today and what you may have disregarded or disbelieved, and hopefully when you actually see it, you'll fall on your knees and understand that Jesus loves you and he's given us the news before it happens, and when you see it happen, you'll turn to the Lord for salvation. Now I want to turn to another prophecy, because we were talking about the Ezekiel 38 war, and there's some news that I want to share with you, making a connection. And you'll see a map here. This is an old map, and it has the old names of the modern day countries. For example, you'll see Canaan, which is today Israel. You'll see Magog, which is actually Russia. of modern day. Now I want you to turn your attention down here to Libya, because what we know are from the Ezekiel 38 and 39, those are the chapters, about this war that comes against Israel, that all of these nations that were listed in the Ezekiel war are going to duplicate what the Arabs are going to be trying to do shortly in the Psalm 83 war. They're going to try to wipe out Israel. And of course, we know that through read Ezekiel 38 and 39 that God is going to sanctify his name, and he is going to fight that war for Israel. And Israel will still be standing after the Ezekiel 38 and 39 war. So let me go over to show you exactly who's going to be involved. I wanted to show you Libya here because there's some news about Libya, and I can connect the dots for you. Now, when you take a look, you'll see exactly who's going to be in it. Gog is the leader of the Russian invasion of Israel. And you can see in the news how Russia has already invaded, or is going to look like they're going to stay in the Ukraine. And of course, there's rumors of war, and this is also a fulfillment of prophecy in the book of Matthew chapter 24, where the Lord warns that in the last days you'll hear wars, rumors of wars, and not only that, but you'll see nation against nation and kingdom against kingdom, all of which we're seeing right now. So Russia, who is known as Gog, is going to lead an invasion against Israel. And you'll see that Magog, Matesh, and Tubal comprise modern-day Russia. Now, Persia is Iran, modern-day Iran, and parts of northern Iraq and Afghanistan. And you know all the problems that have been going on in Iraq and Afghanistan, enemies of Israel. Cush is Ethiopia and Sudan. And now I want you to draw your attention to what's going on here. Put is Libya, and will most likely include Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco, nations that have been in turmoil in the last 3 or 4 years. So let me go over, I'm going to spend some time with Libya because Libya is in the news today. But I wanted you to see Libya is in fact one of the nations that are projected to come against Israel in the last days. Now in the news today, from Yahoo News, Western countries are alarmed as Libya slides into chaos. I'll make this a little bit bigger for you so you can see it. It says Western countries voice concern on Thursday that tensions in Libya could slip out of control in the absence of a functioning political system, and they urge the government and rival factions to start talking. 2.5 years after the fall of former leader Muammar Gaddafi, the oil-rich North African state is struggling to contain violence between rival forces, with Islamic militants gaining an ever stronger grip on the south of the country. The situation in Libya is very worrying. So it should be worrying because as the Islamic extremists take control, and those Islamic extremists hate Israel. And just like Muammar Gaddafi, and I warned what was going to happen to Gaddafi because he was threatening Israel continuously. And when you read in my book about the curse of God, I will show you the details that took Muammar Gaddafi out. And they are very, very plain. I knew it was going to happen because of the curse of the Lord. The promise, the Lord said that anybody who curses Israel will be cursed. And obviously Gaddafi did that. And shortly after, he was asking for the PLO to rise against Israel, to bring them to their knees. Gaddafi himself was killed. So you might want to read that from my book. But Libya is definitely in the mix. The Islamic militants are gaining. And this goes really hand in hand with what we know from what's going to happen in the future. So pay attention to Libya and what's going on there, as well as any other nation that is listed in the Ezekiel chapter 38 war, and especially Russia, because Russia is going to advance. They're going to make moves. Watch the news, because they're trying to get the grips not only in the area of Yukon, or the Ukraine, but in the Middle East. These are the signs that the Lord showed us, the nations. Russia is one of the major players in the last days, and of course Russia will meet their demise when they come against Israel. So I just want to thank everybody for coming to my YouTube channel, and again I'd like to invite you to go over to my website where you can download my book today for free and read all of the articles that I have posted, and hopefully that when you see the connection continuously, and there you're going to see a lot more, that you will come to the knowledge of the Savior Jesus Christ. He loves us all. He's given us the warnings, and all you have to do is embrace this gift that the Lord has given to us. It's a free gift of salvation. He's handed it to us, and all we have to do is say yes to the Lord. And it just blows me away how many people, millions and millions of people around the world, are the rejection of Jesus Christ and His salvation. So I'm going to give you the address that will send you over to my website. And again, download my book today for free. God bless you all.